In the end, my real problem and the evil in my life was not the sin itself as much as it was the lying and the covering up of the sin. Those thousands of lies, and even more than that, is what did me in. Because if I would have just come clean, and been honest with somebody and said, I am desperately in need of help, I could have got help. I always felt a little bit less than everybody. It might have started like when I was in elementary. I was mega blonde, almost white hair, white skin, and got called albino all the time. And I just seemed to never kind of be able to make it into the cool kids group. So I just grew up with this inferiority, I guess. Got a lousy job and realized how lousy my life was going to be, and I was just insanely depressed as a kid. I was like, by this time, 18. And around that time, I'd had experience with Jesus, and my youth pastor had said, Blaine, if you really want to get your life together, you need to go to California, go to this school. It's like a discipleship school. I'll never forget, about 6 months into this school, there's only about 50 of us, right? We're going to do this outreach at a school, like a high school. And it's going to be a full assembly. And the leader of the school pointed at me and said, Blaine, I want you to preach. I'd never preached in my life. They introduced me and I got up and preached to these high school kids. And then something just came over me. All these kids at the end flooded to the front. There were tears and kids coming to Jesus, and I don't even know what's going on. When it was all over, like all my classmates and then our leadership were like, Blaine, God's hand is on you. There's a calling. And that was the most amazing thing ever, from an 18-year-old kid. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I counted, like I mattered. From that moment on, I never looked back. 18, I just said, I'm going to be in the ministry. I'm going to preach. I don't know where, I don't know how, I don't know with who, but that's my life. I remember sitting with my girlfriend at the time, who was Kathy, who I eventually married, and Oral Roberts came on television. He was the first one to buy primetime television, like on ABC, CBS. This is before cable. And he's on there preaching the gospel on television. And I'm like, that is amazing. And I just looked at Kathy and I said, I am going to do that. But we're not going to do it like Oral Roberts. We're going to reach like America's young people. We're going to reach teenagers. It wasn't long after that this guy showed up to preach in our church. And his name was Willie George. And he did this whole thing called the Gospel Bill Show. And I started just asking him questions about TV, and we just hit it off. And eventually, we lived in Canada. He invited us to move to the States. And it was like a year later, as he launched his program, he said, hey, why don't you launch a program for teenagers? And all of a sudden, I'm doing television all over America. It was amazing.
Hey, welcome to Fire By Night. We've got a tremendous program. In fact, the title of our program this time is called Broken Home, Broken Heart. We're going to be talking about the impact of divorce upon the American teenager. Our special guest is Rich Mullen.
It just took off. Literally, within a year, my life just exploded. It was like calls coming in, we want you to speak, want you to come to this conference. And there was just like this explosion of fame and opportunity. And of course, at the time, I was like, yeah, let's do this, And it was all in the guise, or I guess the thought process of let's get the gospel out, if I can preach it like this Christian Woodstock, which was called Creation, at 30,000 people, yeah. But I think internally, there was something, deeper going on of, this is my validation. Still remembering all those kids that called me albino in elementary school. Still remembering the cool kids that I wasn't cool enough for in high school, and thinking, look what I'm doing now. There's just a part of that was in me. And I just wouldn't say no to anything. Every opportunity was just another chance, to have greater influence, meet more people, be at new events. And of course, there's all of the prosperity that comes with that, and the abundance and the affluence. They pay you a lot, when you speak at big events, and this may not last forever. Let's make the best of it, man. Let's go everywhere. So 2 things began to happen. My marriage began to just dissipate, and there was a little bit of resentment on her part, like, you're gone all the time. I'm here with our, little baby kids who are like 2, 3, 4, and I'm like, well, I'm making money and preaching the gospel, and you enjoy all these things, at this home and these cars that I'm able, so there was a little bit of that going on. And then there was just like the sheer exhaustion. And I should have just came off the road, and I should have just cut everything back, but I just kept going. And I remember one night in a hotel room on the East Coast somewhere, and I'm sitting on the end of my bed after preaching all weekend. It's like Sunday night, I think, and I had to preach again the next morning. And I'm looking at the television, and I see this white box on top of the television. And I know what it is. It's the adult movie box. This is pre-internet. I'd seen boxes like that in 100 rooms. But that night, it was like every defense in me was gone. And there was this why not? Almost like entitlement, like I deserve a break. I just working my tail off. And so I eventually just got up, hit the red button, and I've never seen porn. And of course, porn is just such a fake world, and yet in the moment you're believing it's all real, and these women that are kind of looking through the camera with their seduction, you feel like they're actually looking at you, and there's this crazy connection. And I just took it all in. And when it was done, which was 7 minutes later, I made the worst mistake that I've ever made that night in my life to this point. The worst mistake, and it wasn't hitting the red button. I went down to the front desk, catch the attention of the clerk, and I said, I want to pay for the movie I just rented. I'm just going to hide it, and I'm going to get over it. I went back up to the hotel room, and man, in the midst of that shame, I started praying and crying out to God, and literally crying tears, cried myself to sleep, woke up the next morning, read the Bible, and I remember saying, God, I'll never do it again, and I didn't do it again for 6 months. And 6 months later, I'm in the same place, same brokenness, same exhaustion, and I gave in again. And the next time it was 3 months. The next time it was a month. And slowly that whole world began to creep into my soul. I think it's in Proverbs 27. It says that hell has this voracious appetite, and lust never quits. You never plateau over the course of really a couple of years, several years. It just went from porn to eventually I want something real. And I remember, I think, being in Miami, Florida one time preaching, and the hotel that they put me in was literally down the street from a strip club. First night, didn't go over there. Second night, didn't go over there. But the third night, just walk in. Now it's real. I remember walking in one night, and I sit down, and all of a sudden this young man who's like in his 20s, taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, aren't you Blaine Bartel?" And I am like, yeah, I am. And he said, "Fire by Night?" He said, I watch that show all the time. And like he's telling me about my TV show, and I'm sitting here in this strip club. And I am freaking out. Literally, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna leave, he's gonna call our operation and tell the world, or call the newspaper. So I don't know what to do. I immediately get up. And I start walking to the exit, and he walks after me, and he says, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And so I finally just turn around, and this, without me even thinking, this just came out of my mouth. I said, "Bro, I just came in here because I felt like the Lord told me to come in here, because I might need to talk to someone about Jesus. And I think that person is you. You know, why are you here?" I feel so much shame and regret to this day for that conversation, because I shamed that young man for my own behavior. And he just kind of looked at me, and I just walked out, got in my rental car, went back to the hotel, and just prayed that he wouldn't call somebody. And I remember going into the office the next Monday and just kind of like, I wonder if a phone call's come in. No phone call. Next day, no phone call. The whole week, has anyone called? No. I thought, I made it. Those kind of exposure moments or fearful moments would come. I would like, okay, I gotta stop now. Like it's getting, way too close. But, time would pass, and the regret and the shame and kind of the remorse would wear off like it always would. And all of a sudden you're in another place. Remember being in another hotel not long after that. I look out the window and there's this massage parlor. I'm like justifying it. I'm thinking, oh, it's just a massage. There's nothing wrong. I need a little bit of relaxation in my life, and go back there. And of course, no surprise to me, but it's not just a massage. There's like, would you like more? And just about every city I went to after that, I'd get into a hotel, I'd pull out the Yellow Pages, look for M, and then see where the massage parlors were in town.